Can you give me a quick example of a time that was just maybe even surprising to you of that level of healing that you saw?
Yes, I worked with a man. This man was at the Santa Monica Farmers Market, and an older lady was driving her vehicle. She lost control and hit a bunch of people. And one particular person was injured, and he happened to be there, and he rushed to this person, was holding this woman, and she died in his arms. So this person was experiencing PTSD, but it wasn't from what you think. What had happened is that he sought coaching or first therapy, and it didn't work. Then he found me. I'm not saying therapy doesn't work, but if a person's not specialized in treating trauma, they probably shouldn't be working with that person. That's just my belief. And because just talking about that could be contraindicated. You know what I mean? It just kicks up that stuff. So it's very important to remember that anyone who has PTSD, that you have to approach it from a somatic perspective, such as before you start working with that person, it might be simply, we're going to imagine that there is a pond here. And I want you to imagine that it's actually really cold, but it's not going to hurt you. It's not dangerous. If you were to just stick your big toe in the water and you know you have full control of that, then maybe you have the ability to slowly submerge the rest of your body. And I will bring a client to that perspective of where that I want you to imagine, just like when I ask you questions, that you don't have to share. You have control over them. And just like your big toe going into the pond, I want you to think of it in the same way where you do this when you're ready. Just that alone is going to prepare a client to kind of go, I don't have to go all the way. Okay. Because when people go through some traumatic experience, they are bombarded by police, family members, nurses, doctors, friends, all of that. And typically they feel very spun out and it's very uncomfortable and it makes it worse. So it's a breath of fresh air for them when someone is approaching them from this container which they feel like they're collaborating with. So that alone creates a level of safety and participation on their part, and you really want them to participate. So that's the first step of like creating that container. So when I met with this gentleman, I went through that process also. First off, we were using the technique EMDR. What happened was we started to process what had happened. And what was interesting is that he went all the way back to the Gulf War, where his platoon was ambushed and he was the only survivor. He had prior trauma that was unhealed. So look at the correlation to everyone died but me. The guilt of that to here, I couldn't help this woman either. A lot of times what will happen when a person who's been traumatized wants to work on themselves and heal that, it shares too much on the actual event to the details of that versus the interpretation that the victim took away from that, especially days after, 2 years after. Because if it's being interpreted as I must have been wrong, it could have been better, or there's confusion, it's never integrated. And what's not integrated typically shows up in our life as health issues, like digestive issues. It shows up in our life where a woman who had been perpetrated, she's getting a massage and then the safe male therapist goes by her thighs and all of a sudden it kicks up the cellular memory and she doesn't know why. We all have this in our body. If we don't make sense of what had happened to us, in the worst case scenario, it turns into PTSD. The body's just looping through an experience that still does not make sense to the client. And that's it. So to break it down in a simple way is we are there to help them make sense of the event where they feel in control. They did all that they could do. And not just that, is that they have the ability to integrate the new learning and then take it into action. And that is to become that new version that's healed. And you don't have to be completely healed, but it's more where, just as an example, a person might be afraid to go outside their front door. in this experience, you might have the person just walk around in their lawn and to connect to nature and in that space where they feel safe. But I would want them to try something new. Back to this gentleness. In my book, I talk about locating just one belief, one hidden belief. And if you do, that might solve all the problems in your life. So I'll tell you what the hidden beliefs this man had, and it was this: I couldn't help these people. Why was I in that position to experience that? There must be something here that was supposed to learn and do. But those two beliefs were based in the idea that he was supposed to play God, that was supposed to work out differently, rather than that in the last moments of that woman's death in his arms, she was being held by care and love by him.